Hello everybody, it's Monday, I'm Mover. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at another old HUD tape. F-15 had an engine fire and then landed at Whiteman, went off the runway and subsequently ejected. This is actually, whereas the F-16 video we did previously was a really good example of crew or cockpit resource management, this one actually, surprisingly, there's some lessons learned. Obviously, at the end of the day, he survived, and that was good, but there are some things that we can talk about. And this video was actually played in pilot training as an example of what not to do. So if you want to see the full video, I will leave a link in the description. This is not, I'm not going to do a full playthrough before I break it down. So if you don't want to see me stopping and you want to hear what they're saying and you're worried about that, this is not the video for you. I know some people get confused by what a breakdown means, but this is a breakdown video, not the full video. So let's take a look. It's the U.S. Air Force F-15 engine fire, runway overshoot, and ejection.
3, 2, 1, flight off.
Okay, trying a different layout. Let me know if you like this one or you want to go back to the old one. But basically, it's an old HUD tape. This is an A model, an F-15A. And I know people always ask, why is the quality so good, so bad? Because this is an 8mm tape that was converted to digital at some point. Quality's just never going to be good, especially when you're converting and uploading and all that. And I think this is 480p at best. So basically, it's the same layout of any other fighter. Airspeed's going to be on the left, altitude's on the right, heading at the top, and then distance. I believe that's to whatever he has selected, whether it's the TAC-in, air-to-air TAC-in, or whatever, and then pitch ladders showing how high he is, up or down, if you will. So, disclaimer also, I've never flown the Eagle, and I'm not familiar with the Eagle, although I will take a look at the checklist as we go, because there's something important that I think should be brought up. So let's listen and watch. I believe at this point he's already lost his number 2 engine. And when we talk engines, 1 is the left engine. You know, as you're looking forward, 1 is the left, 2 is the right. So 2 being the right engine. So right now he's doing about 250 knots. He's at 15,500 feet. Heading, looks like 300-ish. Oh, 330.
Need for you to check the number 2 engine on my jet as soon as you can.
Okay, so he is the flight lead. He told his wingman, hey, check the number 2 engine on my jet as soon as you can. He's obviously already has the problem, so he's getting his wingman in to go do a visual assessment of what they see.
Coming. Confirm 300 knots. Accelerate to get there.
Okay, so he says confirm 300 knots. He's just asking for his own rejoin, and then he says, no, I'm accelerating to get there. So you can tell here he's yawing. Probably has a lot more rudder in. He's stepping on the good motor, but he's probably a little bit too much, so that's why the pitch ladders are off. Either that or it's windy at the altitude they're at. Could be a combination of both.
In control, Misty 1, we're declaring an emergency and going back into Whiteman.
Okay, so Misty 1, he's in the airspace, a military operating airspace, declaring the emergency, letting him know where we're going. Now he's said the E word, so they're going to have fire and rescue available when he lands and priority handling. Either they didn't hear him or they're busy thrashing trying to...
Hey, Red 46, more control.
Oh, there you go.
46, just while you're refueling on your way towards Mike Kilo Charlie and Tango Kilo Oscar, who will be doing the talking with Kansas City Center, you or Spirit?
Misty, confirm your right afterburner is not lit.
Okay, so a lot of things going on right there. 2 just said something very important. Confirm your afterburner is not lit. That is an indication that you've got a fire. He sees the fire.
That's firm. You got a fire in the engine.
Yep. So confirm your afterburner's not lit. That's a firm. You've got a fire. So they have confirmed the fire. My assumption at this point is that he's already done the checklist, which includes shutting down the engine, blowing the fire extinguisher or fire bottles, and the fire should be out. And if the fire's not out, then he's in the checklist that says if fire persists, eject.
Shut it down now.
Okay, 2 says shut it down now.
And Spirit 19er squawk standby.
He says shut it down now, but I would think he's already got the engine shut down. It's unfortunate I couldn't find the AIB report on this because it's so old. They don't keep on the internet archival copies, or at least I don't know how to find them, but it would have been nice to actually see what kind of the thought process here was.
Keep an eye on it for me. I've got it shut down now.
I'll work.
Okay, so keep an eye out on it for me. I've got it shut down. Hindsight is 2020. I'm not, Monday morning quarterbacking, but every checklist that I know, if fire persists, eject. So once you've done all the steps and you have confirmed that there's still a fire, it's burning through. Because what happens when you've got this fire is that it is not just, especially if it's uncontained and it's still burning, it's burning through hydraulics, flight controls, fuel systems. Anything that's flammable is now at risk, and to the point where the jet just burns itself up. So at this point, per the checklist, he should be thinking about just ejecting, putting it in pointing in a safe direction. He's in the MOA, getting it away from populated areas, and giving the jet back to the taxpayers.
South.
Fire is not out. It is continuing to burn.
On guards.
So 2 pimps him. He says, hey, fire's not out. It is continuing to burn. He doesn't say eject. He doesn't say, hey, the checklist says eject. He just says, fire is not out, is continuing to burn, hoping that he'll make the right decision.
Pull out work south immediately. And red 46 squawk 6331.
6331, red 46. 61 confirmed. That's confirmed. I've got it out.
Yep, so 2 pimps him again. Hey, just confirm. Yep, I've got it out. Fire's persisting. So the checklist, I'm going to read it real quick. There's not much to it. I don't know if this eventually became bold-faced. I'm reading an A model checklist. But the initial actions: engine fire, overheat in flight, throttle idle. If warning light remains on or fire persists, fire warning light push, throttle off, fire extinguisher discharge. If fire persists, eject. If the warning light goes off or fire's out, fire warning system test, monitor other fire indications closely. So the checklist never says if the fire persists, you've got the option to eject or not. It just says eject. The only option it gives you is if the warning light goes out, make sure the fire is not still burning, because that is your danger right now. So he is still ignoring that and proceeding to Whiteman.
Okay, you got a fire in your right engine.
Red 1,
You're speeding the afterburner section, but it's not out.
Okay, so he says you've got a fire in your right engine. It appears to be in the afterburner section, which is in the aft of the engine, but it is not out. So that jet is on fire right now. It is burning, which is a good wingman, right? 2 Joker Bingo, lead, you're on fire. He's telling him, hey, you're on fire.
And there's a flight for you and Spirit 19.
Okay, we're going to put it into Whiteman as soon as possible here. If you can do any coordinating on radio, thank you.
So flight lead comes back and says, we're going to put it into Whiteman as soon as possible if you can do any coordinating. So he's speeding up. You can see his airspeed is starting to climb because he is trying to get on the ground. He's trying to get his burning aircraft on the ground as soon as possible versus ejecting per the checklist.
Copy. Switch 2556 now.
Okay, so they're passing 12,000 feet. He's got his airspeed up through 400 knots, and he is hauling the mail with 1 engine running and 1 engine on fire towards the field.
Joining approved in altimeter now 2957 Foxtrot current.
Whiteman Tower, Misty 1's emergency. I'm 13 miles southeast of your field with an engine fire that will not go out. I'll need crash recovery assistance. I'll be landing at a straight-in approach to the south.
Okay, so he said everything right there. I've got an engine fire that will not go out, and I'm landing. You're at the checklist. Checklist says eject, you eject. Don't try to be a hero, because if it burns through, you no longer have control of the aircraft. You know, you can't point it in a safe direction. You can't put yourself in the best position for a good controlled ejection. That's it. It burns through. You've got a lot of flammable stuff on that aircraft. He is not making good decisions based on the checklist right now, and his wingman has tried, but his wingman hasn't outright said anything. All he's doing is going, hey boss, you know, maybe, the fire's still going. Fire's still going.
Misty 1 Whiteman Tower, roger, report turn final, wind 19024, gust 31.
19024, gust 31. So you've got a lot of factors now. You've got gusty winds, so high winds. Yep, you can handle that, but with a single engine approach, a fire, you're doing over 400 knots, trying to get to the field as quickly as possible. Things aren't going well for him.
Misty copies.
He sounds cool. I mean, he sounds relaxed. He sounds cool. He thinks what he's doing is the right thing because he's going to save the aircraft. He's going to save the aircraft. Fire's going to get there, put it out. You know, if you eject, you automatically lose the aircraft. But, you know, if he gets there fast enough, he can avoid the burn through, especially with as far aft as he is. I'm sure he's thinking, you know, it's in the afterburner section. It's not near the critical systems. It probably won't burn through, especially if I keep the speed up and keep the air going through the intake. But unfortunately, that's not what the checklist gave him the option to do. The checklist says if fire persists, eject.
We're fast 2-1 tower, I need you to hold over Lamont. I have inbound AFB F-15, and I'll call your inbound.
Yeah, he's talking to somebody.
Roger, and we're heading out to Lamont. We're available if he needs chase ship assistance.
Yeah, so the other flight just says, hey, we're available if he needs a chase ship, not knowing that his wingman's already doing that. And look at the airspeed. He's 425 right now.
Misty wanted your call, but this thing is burning.
Okay, wingman comes out again. Misty wanted your call, but this thing is burning. He is trying. He's not saying, hey, dude, checklist says jump out. He's just saying, hey, it's your call. This is a CRM thing, kind of like the days of old. And, you know, the 90s were a different time where, you know, the flight lead was the boss. You said two Joker Bingo lead, you're on fire. And if he said, shut up, I'm doing this, you just, okay, copy that. So he's trying to, you know, ask smart questions, be cool, kind of help him out, lead him down the right path. But the flight lead's got his mind made up. And, you know, the wingman obviously knows that the answer is to get out. But he never actually says the word eject or references the checklist.
Hey, fast 2-1, you copy, hold over Lamont, sir.
Yeah, I'm going out to Lamont now. If he wants to chase ship, just let me know.
So that's the other flight still saying, hey, I could be a chase ship. They don't need one. There's already another jet.
Tower, fast 2-3.
On the Ox, confirm it's the right side, number 2.
Only short end.
Right into the number 2 engine is continuing to burn correct.
So again, he's confirming, hey, it's the right engine, the number 2 engine. Still burning.
If you land on the runway, you're going to lose that airflow. That's what causes the fire to stagnate.
Okay, so he says that right there. He says, once you land on the runway, you're going to lose the airflow, right? Because he's doing 450 knots. That's keeping the fire pretty much contained to the aft section. But as soon as he stops, that fire will no longer have 450 knots worth of wind and will then burn through. It's just going to burn everything. That's the wingman again, trying to help
Misty 1, I have a single T-38 holding about 3 miles to your landing 1 o'clock at 2,400.
Copy. This is going to be a bad one. I need crash assistance on the runway. I'm going to be landing as quickly as possible.
Okay, he says this is going to be a bad one. I need crash assistance. They need to roll out because he knows this thing's going to burn through. He's doing 450 knots. He's got this get home-itis. He doesn't want to jump out, but he wants to put this thing on the runway.
Misty 1 there en route, sir.
Okay, on the Ox, say again what you're saying about airflow. Think about it. If the engine, when you land, you're going to lose that airflow through the engine. That's what caused that fire to possibly stagnate in one position.
Hey, fast 2-1.
The question is how much time you got to get that thing done go.
Vehicles,
So the wingman is telling him, hey, look, dude, it's not burning through because you've got air through the intake and it's pushing the fire aft. But as soon as you stop, you lose all that airflow. It's gonna rage. I mean, this thing might just cook off into a big fireball. You're gonna have to get out fast. Think about what you're doing.
Pull as far off the hammerhead as you can, sir, please.
Just to think about. Tower Misty 1, I'll be landing from a straight in, shutting down as soon as possible, and jumping out of the jet on the crash assistance on the runway.
So 1 takes that to mean, well, I just got to get out fast. So he's letting them know, oh yeah, I'm going to stop. I'm going to get out as soon as possible. They need to put the fire out. Instead of thinking, well, what does the checklist actually say?
Misty 1, roger, sir.
Tower's just relaying. They're just going to call the fire.
Tower Misty 2 will be overhead until he gets shut down completely, and you give me the okay, and I'll see you safely. Then I need a vector back to St. Louis ASAP.
So Misty 2 is now telling him, hey, look, he's going to land. I'm going to circle overhead until either the runway opens up or I have to divert.
Misty 2, roger.
So his speed's come down. He's at 375 knots. He's still hauling the mail trying to get this thing on the ground.
One wind 19025, best 33, clear to land.
Confirm you've got a departure in cable.
Okay, 190 was a 25 gust 33, so essentially right down the runway it looks like.
Negative cable that way.
Thank you.
So he asked if he has a cable. A lot of people don't know this, but most fighters, in fact all of them I think except the A-10, have a hook. Even Air Force fighters. And we have a hook. There's a cable both ends of the runway that they can raise or keep in a raised position. And to keep them from going off the end of the runway, throw the hook down. The hook can do an arrested landing, no problem. So we don't do fly-in arrestments typically, but he knows he's fast. He knows he's going to be dropping the gear, so it'll keep him from going off the end of the runway, so he thinks. But look at this. You can see the runway. He's probably 2 miles, 3 miles, 350 knots, so he's going to drop the gear. He's going to overspeed the gear more than likely because I doubt the Eagle has a 350 knot gear speed. But he's got to slow down. He's in a bad position. This is not a good approach. 5 degrees nose down. All right, so he's probably in idle at this point, trying to get it slowed. May or may not have the speed brake depending on which side. I don't know how the Eagle's designed, but if it's the right engine, that might be where the speed brake is tied because the hydraulics are usually, you know, A and B. But he's struggling. He's over 300 knots right now. And you can see pitch oscillations. It's hard when you're trying to be fine-tuned, especially, you know, he may have already dropped the gear right now, so he's trying to get the flaps down and get everything stabilized, and the more configured you are for landing, the more sensitive it is to high speed. So he's crossing the threshold, 275 knots. This is faster than what the space shuttle would do. I mean, even if you touch down, it's going to blow the tires. The tire speeds won't handle over 200 knots. It just won't. So this is not going to end well. So you can see here pitch oscillations. He's trying to milk it down, but just going way too fast, and he's relying on that cable to get him down. So he touches down, 250 knots, probably already blew the main tires. And the Eagle likes to land in a high AOA and actually aero brake. So, you know, he's in a 3-point attitude. So the usual, you know, when you aero brake, you're using the big surface area of the jet to slow down with drag. Well, he's not having that because he's in this flat attitude, which is also not helping him. Yeah, that's the tires blowing. That's what that shake was. So now it's becoming uncontrollable. He's at 225 knots.
Get stop, killer. Say that again. Say again. Get her stopped.
So his wingman says, get her stopped. Useless comm. I mean, of course he's trying to get it stopped.
It's not going to stop before the end. I'm going to have to punch.
So he sees it coming. He knows, hey, it's not going to stop toward the end. I'm going to have to punch.
We're here.
I must have missed it. Did he say that he didn't have a departure in cable? I thought they did, but if he's knowing he's going to have to punch. But he's going too fast for a cable arrestment anyway. So 200 knots, 180 knots. He's in the overrun. There's no way to stop it, and even if he were, he's too fast for the cable.
Get out, get out, get out.
And he's already gone. He's already ejected.
Bingo, fuel.
And the aircraft.
Bingo, fuel. Bingo. Overtemp, left. Warning, FTIT, overtemp, left. Bingo.
So there you go. So with these things, I say these as a learning thing. I don't, obviously, this can happen, but for the grace of God go I. This can happen to anybody. It can happen to me. I'm not saying that what he did, he's a bad pilot. I'm not saying that, with that information, I might not have done the same thing. What I am saying is when it comes to CRM and when it comes to dealing with emergencies, the checklist is first and foremost. Boldface or critical action procedures, stuff you have to do now, stuff you memorize. And CRM, working with your wingman, they have to back each other up in the checklist. And so you can see in this example, if he had followed the checklist, he was ejecting, right? It was a bad day. He had a situation that, he just had to deal with the cards that he was dealt. And the checklist would have driven him to eject in the airspace, would have been controlled, aircraft would have been destroyed, but he would have ejected and they'd had to go get him. He opted not to do that because he wanted to get back on the ground and he wanted to save the jet. I understand that. However, the end result, because he did not follow the checklist, was exactly the same, except he put himself in a more precarious situation that could have been a lot worse. I mean, the fact that the seat worked, it's awesome. That's a good ACES 2 seat, really good seat. But it could have been avoided. The end result had been the same, but at least if he'd have followed the checklist, it would have been a much more controlled, a much safer situation than 200 knots at the end of the runway, going off the end of the runway. And it goes back to the CRM. His wingman should have brought up, hey, checklist says eject. You got to get out. It's time to punch. That's it. There's no more, hey, we're going to fly 400 knots. I don't know what the wingman's experience was, but seeing that, hey, dude, you're at 400 knots at 5 miles, this approach is not going to work. We don't ever do this. We never do a straight in like this. And even if you were doing a simulated flame out or an actual flame out with an F-16, you'd never be in that kind of profile. This is not something they practice. This is not something single engine jets practice. So there was a lot of comm breakdown between the two of them in how this handled. And unfortunately, the result was the same. Luckily, he survived with minor injuries. I'm sure with some compression stuff from the seat and ejecting and stuff, but it's just one of those things. I debriefed this for the learning points, not to pass judgment. I don't know who the pilot was. Hopefully he went back to flying. It was a bad day, with the fire. Wasn't handled in accordance with the checklist, but of course we can always learn from stuff. And the good thing is the guy survived it. And this was, 25 years ago now. So long time ago, but interesting case study, especially contrasting to the F-16 and how that was handled and how everybody worked together and stuff like that. And they made sure that they were running the checklist appropriately and all that stuff. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.